1 2 1 2. I go by the name of DJ What, and you're now listening to the original Jeek Podcast. Let's go.
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut. Come on, cut for me.
Oh yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
Fresh.
Yeah, making me itch.
What up, Jeeks? I am your host of RockinMrMagic, and you are listening to the original Jeek Podcast. Yeah. What's up? What's up, everybody? I'm so glad to be here recording another pod for y'all. And today's episode, man, we've got some stuff to talk about. We've got a review, late, I know, but a review of James Gunn's Superman. We've got a recap of the 2025 World Championships of Track and Field. And we have a return of our classic segment, the Reboot Police. So let's go. Starting off with our What Are You PWC? What are you playing, watching, and creating? I gotta be honest, I haven't been playing a whole lot. I haven't had time. For those of y'all who know me IRL, I was out of work for a little bit, but praise God, I got a new job that I started a couple weeks ago. So I have been kind of focused on that, not playing as much. And, life, adulting happens. So have not had the opportunity to game as much as I would desire to. But I am still putting a little time in. And the time I have put in has mostly been playing Final Fantasy 16, which I have been behind on. And I'm trying not to repeat what I've done in other Final Fantasy games. Hence last episode when I talked about my roughly 600 hours in Final Fantasy 12. I'm not going to do the same thing. One is just not the same. Like, I can't level every character up. I have one character to level up. And right now I'm still like I think I just hit level 38, maybe 39. I'm not sure, but I'm nowhere close to level 99. I don't even know if they will let you hit 99 in this game. And honestly, the amount of grinding it would take a lot. And you don't get a ton of XP. Man, there's no, to my knowledge, well, actually, no, there are some things that give you a bit more experience. And I had one of those accessories. I didn't even realize it, but I equipped it. So I had been leveling up a little faster. But it would take me, even with that accessory boosting the percentage of XP you get, I would have to do so much grinding and just killing these random enemies, fast traveling. And some of the areas, of course, the enemies aren't worth as much. So I would have to really just run around the map, and I'm not doing that. Not doing it again. No. Nah. But I do enjoy it. I'm liking where the story goes so far. I'm having a lot of fun with Final Fantasy 16. All right. Let's start with a little R&D, little review and discuss of Superman. Yes, this is late. And it's so late. Honestly, I wanted to see this in theaters. It didn't pan out that way. But so when it came to Max, it's one of the first things I turned on. And yeah, Superman, directing by James Gunn, written by James Gunn, Jerry Siegel, and Joel Shuster, starring David Cornsweet, Alan Tudyk, Grace Chan, Bradley Cooper, Jor-El, Angela Sarafian, some voices like Michael Rooker as well, and Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor. So, non-spoiler rating. I was concerned on how well James Gunn would do with a major character. I think I've said on this show before, we've seen James prove himself with characters nobody cared about. He took the Guardians of the Galaxy and made them into a household name. They were D-list at best characters in the Marvel universe prior to Marvel and Kevin Feige rolling the dice and putting their faith in James Gunn and letting him turn D-list dirt into gold. Alchemy worked magic. So we knew he had the capability, weren't sure what he would do with an already established, major, and very cherished by a lot of fans character. You can take and make changes with a story when it's characters like Guardians of the Galaxy that no one cared about. Because let's face it, if you're a comic book reader, the Guardians in the comics are nothing like the MCU Guardians. You can do that with characters no one really cares about. You can't really do that when it comes to a beloved character like Superman. So, what did I think? How did James Gunn do? I give it for those who don't know our ranking, we rank things out of 5 around here. We just use our logo as the visual. I gotta give it 4 out of 5 logos. This was a lot better than I thought it would be. I know some people didn't like it. Some people loved it. I give it a 4 out of 5. It's not a perfect film, but it was good. Things of course I would like better, but we'll go into that. But this was a good movie, and it was an enjoyable movie. I was disappointed personally that Cavill didn't return. I understand the pros and cons to that. And look, Hornswogh didn't do bad at all. I think Hornswogh was a good choice, and I'll go into that a little further. So, starting with the pros, I've got a couple pros here of the film that really, to me, stood out as really big positives. And since I mentioned Hornswogh, I'll start with him. I think James Gunn really nailed the fact that Superman is this ultimate Boy Scout. And Hornswogh really had a grown-up kid Boy Scout look that Cavill doesn't really have. Cavill's, level of handsome and rugged look may just be a bit too much to really give that Boy Scout look. Because Cavill, fantastic figure, rugged look, and even though he doesn't play British, we know he's British, so he kind of has that British air of sophistication about him. Hornswogh looks like he looks like a aw shucks kind of guy. And James Gunn wrote the aw shucks darn, dag nabbit, Kern Fernit, Boy Scout Superman. That's very aligns with a lot of the vibes you get, kind of from the 1930s cartoons, from the from the TV show with George Reeves, a lot of the comic book portrayals have that all shucks type of vibe. It's fit really well. And Torrance Witt did a fantastic job playing that ultimate Boy Scout. I think was a fantastic choice because we really haven't had that, at least that I can recall, in a live action. Obviously, I've already mentioned Cavill, and his, the tone set by the director was more dark and brooding. We have the example of Christopher Reeve in films who did a fantastic job as the difference between Superman and Clark Kent. And he had a lot of those Clark Kent. He had some of that aw shucks, but it didn't seem as Boy Scoutish, didn't seem as, childish in ways that Torrance Witt did a really good job portraying a childlike level of innocence in this version of Superman. So kudos to Torrance Witt, kudos to Gunn, kudos to him as a writer and director, and getting that out of the actor. That was fantastic. What also I think is great is that we started mid-story. We didn't get a drawn-out, repeated origin story. Here's Krypton. It's going to blow up. Got to put the baby on the rocket to shoot it off. Like, we didn't have that rinse and repeated origin of Superman. This Superman has already been established on this planet. He's already been a hero. People know about him. He's been fighting. And we, spoiler, sorry, got to give a spoiler warning. Spoilers from 2 minutes ago. Well, I didn't see any spoilers in the betrayal. So spoilers from here on out. My bad. Spoilers. Red alert. Spoilers, okay? Spoilers. So, I love the fact that this movie started with a already established Superman mid-fight where we get right into the thick of things, right into the story, and it felt smooth. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like, oh man, I needed to have some type of reference material to catch up to this. It went very well. Great opening. I love the fact that James Gunn started mid-existing story. Fantastic decision. Just very well done. And the last big pro is Nicholas Holt. His performance as Lex Luthor was fantastic. The look, his facial expressions, the animosity in his eyes, the intensity in his face, the way his intonation changed. It was a fantastic performance. And I know it's not common for these two nominations to really happen in superhero movies. But if you really look at Holt's performance, I think it's award worthy for his best supporting actor. He makes half of this film, in my opinion, as that good of a villain. His portrayal is out of this world. I think he did just a fantastic job. Very believable, very maniacal, I should say maniacal, but definitely obsessive, driven, arrogant, just so many, discarding of people. And one thing that I think is great is that Gunn wrote in the use of so many underlings, so many people working willingly along with Lex Luthor to defeat Superman. Because that's one thing that in other portrayals I always found to be kind of weird, is that Lex had these big grandiose plans to stop Superman and only him and like two other people knew about it. And it don't work that way. You can't pull off all these things and these big plans and without like a lot of people being, in agreement with you and working to that end. You can't fool 500 people into doing something that hurts Superman, and only you and your right hand and your left hand know about it, know what the real intention is. That's not realistic. So having, this command room where he is, barking orders and people are following commands and they're getting the best Superman and they're, working together as a team and they're celebrating their wins, that made a lot of sense. It's something we really haven't seen, on live action. I can't think, TV or films, to my knowledge. Please come and correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't recall that really being a thing in Smallville or Lois and Clark, or obviously the Christopher Reeve Supermans. I don't recall Luthor having that many people running that type of a command center type room where all these people are, working in cohesion to defeat Superman. I thought that was a great choice by James Gunn there. However, I do have to have some cons because I have to keep things objective. Nothing's perfect. And so I got to say the things I don't like. Things I don't like, Guy Gardner, I did not enjoy, and Fillion. I think he's great. I don't think this portrayal of Guy Gardner was that good, and particularly because it felt too much like Ryan Reynolds. This is going to sound coarse for people who may sound like strong language, but it's something that, I use this word on this show at times, and it's only it's pretty much the best way to accurately, not softly, but accurately describe the character of Guy Gardner. If you've read, 5 issues of Green Lantern, or that 5 issues of any comic book that has a decent amount of Guy Gardner in it, whether it's Justice League, whether it's Green Lantern, whether it's Green Lantern Corps, whether it's Guy Gardner's own title. In short, Guy Gardner is a dick. He's a big old jerky jerk dick. And he's a dick to everybody, especially those who care about him the most in Hal Jordan, John Stewart, Kyle Rayner, Ice, his girlfriend for a long time in DC Comics, the entire JLA. He's a dick. He's their dick. They love him despite him being a big dick. But he's a dick. So him being a bit crass and rude and stuff is completely within character. But this version felt way too much trying to have Deadpool vibes. The middle finger, green hand coming up. It didn't feel that Guy Gardner-y to me. And also having him kind of be de facto leader of this, Justice Gang, which, that guy is a bit too selfish and too much of a dick to even assume leadership roles. Traditionally within the comics, that's how he is. So I wasn't feeling it. Again, it felt too much like they had Nathan Fillion doing a bad Ryan Reynolds impersonation, Deadpool vibe. I wasn't a good fit, in my opinion. I didn't dig it. Another con was one of the biggest gripes in superhero comic book movies, and that is the same versus same fight. I groaned in disappointment at the revelation of the Superman clone Superman had to fight. And that was the big physical fight. Now, yes, Lex Luthor unless he, has, the big Superman fighting green suit machine thing, Superman, super wannabe Iron Man type suit, unless he's got that thing on, which obviously they didn't have him develop in this movie. He's not fighting Superman. So, no, I didn't. So, yeah, we can't expect, Superman physically to be, fighting Lex Luthor in the climax, in the finale, in the grand, big battle, big showdown. But it didn't have to be the same old, same versus same. And for a moment, just a moment, I had a glimmer of hope. And maybe there's still a little bit of hope, but I had a glimmer of hope that this same versus same fight would at least hint or lead into something along the lines of Connor Kent, aka Superboy, the half Superman, half Lex Luthor clone, and not a direct one-on-one clone. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe it's a breadcrumb, but still the same versus same fight, big fight. It's such a cliche. It's so repetitive in superhero movies. And the fact that the first film in this new DCU under James Gunn supposed to be like a flagship type film to establish this universe, and you went with the same old, same versus same fight. That was really disappointing for me. I really think they could have avoided that. My opinion. Last con, Lois Lane, and not really her portrayal. I really wasn't the biggest fan of the portrayal, but I don't think they gave the actress too much to do as Lois Lane. They really didn't utilize the Lois Lane in the traditional sense. So I think that's part of what I felt was lacking, is that this Lois Lane, outside of interviewing Clark's Superman, wasn't out there doing the investigative journalist thing, and not that she has to be out there getting herself in trouble for Superman to come save her, because again, this was a, established mid-story, they've worked together for quite some time. She's found out he's Superman. They're dating. Like, I don't need for it to do that. But I would have liked to have seen more of that Lois Lane going after the story, in competition with Clark, that kind of is always held true throughout the different levels but throughout the different versions of Superman. And that would have given her some more to do. Because honestly, we really just had her talk to Clark, confront him a little bit via interview, make out, and then fly around in Mr. Terrific's, ship. Like, I felt Lois was underutilized. I really think for such an important character within the Superman story that she was underused. But of course, since it is Superman, you would imagine there are going to be a lot more movies where Lois can be further utilized in the future. But for this film, I just felt that she was wasted a bit. So that's my spoiler review. Again, I give this movie 4 out of 5 logos. Is my ranking here on Jeek Nation of Superman. It is currently streaming on HBO Max. I recommend watching it. And I would love to hear from you what you thought of Superman. Let me know, particularly in the comments on our preferred podcast app of choice, Good Pods, or others like Spotify and YouTube, where you can comment along the video and audio. All right. Next topic is the 2025 World Championship of Track and Field. I'm a little late in talking about this too, but yeah, things happen. So one, track and I love track and field. I was not gonna not talk about it. Too much happened, and these 9 days of the track and field championships for me not to talk about it. So here we are. If you're wondering who won, like in the Olympic sense, as far as gold medal counts and things like that, the United States won in that quote unquote won, because they don't count it that way. It's not like a team competition. Although I have said for years they should do that, but I digress. The United States won a world-leading 26 total medals, including a championship-high 16 golds. Kenya finished second, winning 11 total medals, including 7 golds. So congrats to Kenya for showing some dominance out there also in the world track and field. So I'm obviously 9 days. I'm not covering 9 days in this segment. Relax. For those who may feel bored by track and field. If you're that bored by track and field, feel free to skip. We've got chapters in this podcast. You can skip right on to the next chapter. I ain't going to be mad, but I hope you do stay, because track and field is awesome. So we had some notable, impressive performances here at the 2025 World Championships. Notably, Cordell Tinch winning the 110-meter hurdles. Armando Duplantis, who had pole vault, who broke his own world record again, vaulting 20 feet 8 inches. Look, pole vault is not like the flashiest, most popular type of event. Well, I tell you, these pole vault finals were enthralling, and to watch Armando just go out there and continue to vault over, just keep going higher and higher. And look, I don't know if anyone listening's ever tried pole vaulting. It's tough. People are like, oh no, you got a guy. How athletic is that? A guy runs, he jams a pole in the ground, and it flings him over, the other pole. Like, big deal. Dude, to run with that heavy pole, properly place it, jump into the air, use your arm strength to pull, to have the pole bend and project you up and over a bar, have the body control to not hit said bar, and then land 20 feet 8 inches, fall 20 feet 8 inches roughly down onto the mat. It's hard. It's very hard. It is one of the most impressive combinations of speed, strength, balance, and grace and precision that exists in athletics. Pole vaulting is extremely tough. And Armando Duplantis put on a heck of a show. If you have Peacock, you probably can still watch replays and catch these moments that I'm talking about here that are fantastic. Next high point of the World Championship, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. If you don't remember her from last year's Olympics, Sydney is her right now. Sydney dominated the 400 meters hurdles, which is what she's known for, but not just the hurdles, but just the 400 meters itself. Sydney Levrone is just dominating women's track in an extremely impressive way. It's been a while since we've had names in USA women's track that have just had runs of just utter dominance in a while. We've had big names and we've had names come up, but we really haven't had anybody have a lot of staying power at the top. It's been it was, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, we had Flojo, but, we remember her because of how great she was, and then unfortunately losing her so quickly. And you kind of had Gail Devers had a nice little run in there too. And then after them, it was Marion Jones. And then we, of course, lost the legacy of Marion Jones because of the doping. So really since Marion Jones and then the rise of Team Jamaica on the men's and women's side, we haven't had that dominant women's runner that really, we can look at it and say, wow, this woman is just on a whole nother level. Sydney McLaughlin and Levrone is on that level. She is positioning herself to be on anyone's, Mount Rushmore. We don't do Mount Rushmores here. We do fives around here. We do top fives, final fives. So say we all. She's up there to be in that top 5 American track stars of all time on the women's side. She is that good. She is that dominant. Like, I don't have the words to properly express how dominant and amazing she is. Next, we have Noah Lyles also showing dominance. Noah Lyles winning his 4th gold medal in the 200 meters at the World Championships. He disappointed himself and fans in the Olympics by not winning the gold in 200s, but then he won the 100. It was a surprise. Honestly, it was a surprise. I didn't think he was going to win the 100. The 200 is his best event, what he should dominate in. And he showed that. He also picked up the bronze in the 100 meters, but where he shines and where he's at his best, Noah Lyles in the 200 meters. And it really wasn't a competition. It was a little closer in the final. He set a record in the semifinal heat, which was just absolutely insane time. I forget the time off the top of my head. I think it was like 19:51 or something. It was insane. Noah Lyles is a beast. Absolutely beast. And I try not to use animalistic terms to describe Black athletes, but sometimes it's just the first thing, especially when it comes to running, because when I think of them, like it's gazelle, more powerful than Swift, like it's gazelle Swift, but like tiger power. It's watching him run that 200 meters, especially when he comes out of a turn. It is something special, man. It's really to behold. It's a special thing. In a surprise win, the United States. No, not that the United States surprisingly won something. In a surprise win, the United States lost, but not the United States win, but the surprise is that the United States lost the 4x400 relay, partially because we seemingly can't have good enough coaching to get our handoffs right. But congratulations to Botswana. Botswana's men upset the United States in the men's 4x400 meter relay to win the gold medal, causing the United States to take second. Obviously, I would have preferred the United States to win, especially in an event that we are supposed to win. But congratulations to Botswana for a first ever in the country's history. We had another upset in the men's 100 meters because, again, Noah Lyles, the Olympic gold medalist, and Christiane Thompson of Jamaica, the silver medalist from the Olympics, both failed to win gold, as Team Jamaica took the gold, but Christiane Thompson came in second, and Noah Lyles, again, aforementioned, came in third. Last highlight of these 2025 World Championships of Track and Field I want to highlight is another American woman, Anna Hall, who is the first USA heptathlon world champion since Jackie Joyner Kersee in 1993. Yes, over 30 years ago, it was the last time we had a women's heptathlon world champion. Anna Hall has come close so many times this year. Anna Hall not only won, but she won in commanding fashion. There really wasn't much doubt after, I want to say, like 4 events. She was significantly ahead in points, and Anna Hall just put on a fantastic performance. Congratulations to every winner and every competitor of this year's 2025 Track and Field World Championships. It had a lot of unexpected. Oh, sorry. I forgot. I'm so sorry to this athlete. I forgot my favorite highlight, and that is the women's short sprints, the 100 meters and the 200 meters, which were both won by Melissa Jefferson Wooden. She won the sprint double, the first sprint double by an American woman. And she won them in convincing fashion. The 100 and the 200 meter final races were really not in any doubt. Melissa made herself into a bona fide track star overnight. She is going to really she really put a big target on her back come the next World Championships, and obviously leading up for the 2028 Olympic Games. She is someone to worry about. Sha'Carri Richardson, for those wondering where was Sha'Carri, Sha'Carri did not run very well. She did make the final, but she did not run very well. I don't even think she placed I don't think she placed in this final. Sha'Carri isn't going anywhere. She will be back and sure in contention. Those who remember, she did have some personal stuff going on. She was dealing with some injury, but I wouldn't worry about Sha'Carri going anywhere. But if you are a Sha'Carri fan, understand Sha'Carri has serious competition in our current, and both of Sha'Carri's did big events in the 100 and the 200. And that competition that she has to worry about is your current world champion in the 100 and the 200, Melissa Jefferson Wooden. So again, congratulations to all the athletes of this year's 2025 World Track Championships. Thank you for the wonderful 9 days of track and field enjoyment and entertainment. Before we go on the show, I want to let you know that track and field across the world is amazing and was proven in this year's World Championships. But another amazing thing is Zencastr. Zencastr is the ultimate web-based podcast solution. It provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content all from one dashboard. Zencastr records video up to 4K to give you the picture-perfect quality that your video podcast deserves. Zencastr will also distribute your video podcast in 1080p to all available video podcast players. Zencastr's post-production process takes the headache out of audio production. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noises with the click of a button. Ready to start? Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code JEEKNATION, JEEKNATION, and you'll get 30% off your first 3 months of Zencastr Professional. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now back to the show. It's time, folks. It's time. Hear the sirens out there. It's time for the return of the Reboot Police. Yes, see, we as members of the Reboot Police, Sergeant RockinMrMagic, out here patrolling these streets, looking for a reboot to pull over and question, to find out, should they be driving? Not every reboot deserves to be on the road. So tonight, we have first reboot car pulled over, Seventh Heaven reboot. Yes, Seventh Heaven. If you remember Seventh Heaven, it was a show with mostly known for starring Jessica Biel, and also it's the actors that portrayed the parents, whose names, of course, I forget, but both of them coincidentally being in Star Trek movies. They portrayed the Camden family, and both of them had some unfortunate scandals of sexual abuse and stuff. So Stephen Collins, Stephen Collins, and seeing the credits from Star Trek for my head, Catherine Hicks. Yes, they played the leads. Yeah, that things didn't end well, but Seventh Heaven was a drama, ran for 10, 11 seasons, something like that. In the mid 90s into the early to mid 2000s. It was it was a long drama, and it was about, Episcopalian or something like that minister. He was a pastor, but a little stuffier. He wasn't he wasn't a non-denominational in jeans, acoustic guitar type pastor. He was, khakis. I think he wore a collar, but not a Catholic priest. He's one of those, Episcopalian Anglican type guys. I ain't gonna lie, I didn't watch the show much. I saw an episode 2 or there, but it wasn't television for me. But this is being put over because, a remake, a reboot is in development by Anthony Sparks, who's best known for his work on Queen Sugar and Bel Air. He would be serving as the executive producer and showrunner. Jessica Biel, again, from the original show, is also on board as an executive producer. And Devon Franklin, probably best known as the pastor and ex-husband of Megan Good, is also part of the Brain Trust as an executive producer. I have no idea where this could go. Because of having a black showrunner, a black exec, I am thinking they're probably going to make a black version of Seventh Heaven, kind of like what they did with the Wonder Years, and not knocking the Wonder Years reboot, reskin type situation, but no one's raving about it. I mean, and I'm not saying that was a bad show. I can't say it was a good show. I didn't watch it, so I'm not. It wasn't a reboot that I didn't like the first Wonder Years, so I didn't care about watching. Yes, hate all you want on it. I didn't like the Wonder Years. I grew up watching it like everybody else. I didn't like it. Kevin was a punk, needed to get punched. He was mean to his friend. Woody wasn't that cute. The blonde girl, who in real life is her sister, was cuter. Woody was a little bit whack. She was a bit whiny. Kevin was a bigger, whinier punk. Again, he needed to get punched by anybody but his other punk brother. The dad was mean. The mom, she wasn't even very memorable. Wonder Years, I didn't like it. Sue me. Come at me. But I don't care. Wonder Years wasn't that good. So I didn't care about watching the black version of the Wonder Years. I feel kind of the same way about Seventh Heaven. Wasn't television for me. I didn't really enjoy it. I do not care enough to watch a what I'm assuming is going to be a black version of Seventh Heaven. Now, is there potential for it to be good? Yes. I'm concerned that in making a black version of Seventh Heaven, which again, I'm assuming they're sticking with the same pastor, his wife, and a bunch of children, there is way too much potential to go down a whole bunch of stereotypical, rehashed storylines and setups that really don't need to be done again. But if it wants to take a unique, new, fresh, yet respectful and honest look at life in the ministry for the pastor, wife, and preacher's kids, then I might watch an episode or 2 or 3 just to see, because look, there is potential here. I'm not saying there's not, despite the fact that I didn't care about the first one. I just have concerns on how it's going to be presented, what the end goal is. And obviously, especially if they make it a black version, there's going to be automatic pushback from people. Oh, they're flipping everything around. And while obviously I don't think I think they would do what they did with Wonder Years. Wonder Years, if they do that, it's going to be a different family. They're not going to make blacker Camden. There's the Camdens, black Camdens. I forget all the cousins' name, Mary and whatever. They're not going to make the Camden family black. They're going to have a different family and call it Seventh Heaven. Kind of like NCIS and NCIS LA or Seventh Heaven LA, Seventh Heaven New York. I don't know, but they're not going to use the Camden family. It's going to be a different family. So there's potential for reimagination of new characters, and one that better reflects, or that more accurately reflects, our current day and age compared to 30 years ago. And again, showing, and look, the variance between white churches and black churches, and it's big, from just church culture, between not just white and black, but Southern black folk compared to Northern black churches, between Baptist churches and Pentecostal churches, Church of God in Christ, AME churches. So, Southern Baptist versus First Baptist. So there's a lot of variance that you can have within this, and a lot of different experiences that you can take and pull and glean from different church experiences to really create a very full and compelling show. So like there's a lot of very good potential. I'm just, getting concerned about what, how much they are trying to create a new show with the same name, or how much they are trying to just be similar and maybe try to recapture what worked the first time around and kind of just reskin that. That's probably my biggest concern. If they're trying to do a complete reimagination, the sky's the limit with what you can do, with this show. I hope, for hope's sake, that Devon, Jessica, and Anthony Sparks can really work well, and the rest of the writers and such can really come up with something that's raw, honest, respectful, but not hiding the flaws within the church, but not bashing either. Balanced, balanced, good, objective writing and portrayals is if you can get that, you will have. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if you can get that, you'll have a compelling show full of drama, full of love, full of heartache, angst. You will get the full gambit of everything if you do it that way. Next reboot car we've got over here is a it's kind of a conglomerate. Shout out to my man Scotty Higa, who mentioned this last month on his podcast, The Christian Nerd. But there is a Knight Rider movie that is rumored to be rebooted by the creators of Cobra Kai. So, pros and cons to that, because Cobra Kai was good and fun, but it was also cheesy, a little over the top. But the 80s was also cheesy and over the top. So, that's part of it. How far would they go in a Knight Rider movie, and a reboot that's also a movie, especially because the Knight Rider reboot TV show, it was bad. It was bad, y'all. If you don't remember it, good. I'm not going to explain it to you. That's how bad it was. That's how much I try to forget the Knight Rider reboot TV show. It was bad. So, I'm hoping, because of how good and how well they fed nostalgia in Cobra Kai, that these creators can do justice without having to drag Hasselhoff out too much if they drag him out. I think they should use him if he wants to be in it. I think a good, handing the torch off to a new Knight Rider, whether he's Michael Knight's son, Mike Jr., or another cop who they do reconstructive surgery on, and call him Michael as well. So there's potential. There's just, my concern is that they're just maybe driving a little fast, because a whole lot could go wrong. Just, I'm saying. Now, the other part about this is this could trigger a crossover world. Yes. Now, I have mentioned these two shows previously in the archives. In our episode when we had Brian Hernandez of Zero Dark Nerdy guesting on the show, I went through a list of shows I think should be rebooted. And among those shows, 2 would be rebooted within this Nightverse. That is projects expanding into Airwolf and the $6 Billion Man. And of course, you have to have the original Airwolf theme music. But, like I said on that episode, I'm saying again now, where we are with technology, you can make such an amazing and better job with the $6 Billion Man and the Bionic Woman. I'm not going to leave her out. I didn't leave her out then. And Airwolf. Especially Airwolf. With what the helicopter technology is now and what you could come up with that looks, ahead of its time. If you can do this Knight Rider thing right and spin off into Airwolf and the $6 Billion Man, I am all for it. So, apparently this idea kind of got spurned during, the previous strikes not too long ago. We'll see what Universal does. Obviously, Cobra Kai ended earlier this year. The last of it came out. So, The Cobra Kai creative team, which is Josh Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Held, or Heald, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. They are rumored to be pushing forward this Knight Rider project. I think that this reboot just, I think they can go. They can get a warning. Giving them a warning. Give them a warning. Be careful. Do it right. Because if you do it right, you can hit another home run like you did with Cobra Kai. And the last reboot we've got pulled over is the Friday Night Lights reboot. Yes, they are talking about rebooting. And granted, look, this is not new news. This is old news, but it's persisting old news. So, like December last year, Peacock announced that they were developing an adaptation to the Friday Night Lights TV show. Honestly, I don't know why. And look, I'm not in high school, but having kids in high school and watching the show probably, once every couple of years, it's still pretty relevant to current high school experience. Yes, obviously there's some differences. The massive influx in technology is a big thing that is missing from the original, was it 2004 or something? 2000? No, 2004 was the movie. So it was like 2006 to 2010, 2011, something like that. It was late 2000. It was late 2000s of a show. It was a while ago. So almost 20 years. If it started in 06, then next year it'll be 20 years. So obviously there is a big difference in certain things. The alcohol use in the show would be replaced with vapes, THC vapes, and this bunch of kids puffing all over the place. But the themes of high school life, pressure, football, school, sex, drugs, consequences of said actions, rape, all those things that were tackled in Friday Night Lights. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I don't mean it to sound like you shouldn't continue to make things that discuss those topics, because those things have been repeated over and over again. That's not a bad thing. I just don't know if Friday Night Lights is the football. I think you could do it again, but I don't think it really has to be so soon. Yes, again, it's been like 20 years, but still pretty soon. And it's still kind of, again, the show's still kind of relevant. Personally, this is just me. If I was Universal, I would maybe spin that into another show to like a different show. Something else sports related that you can do a lot of those same themes around. Great. I've got a great example. You could take this idea and put it into a Friday Night Lights style show and put it into something like The White Shadow. I think that would be a fantastic idea. And if anyone listening and hears this tries to steal it, I just want my 1%. But The White Shadow would be a great, choice. Look, Friday Night Lights tackle racism from the jump. Like, they mentioned it in episode 1. And it was probably like episode 4 or 5 where they had the black players walk off. Where the United States is politically right now, and where the racial tension is. The White Shadow would be a really good option as a show. So that, in my opinion, I just don't think that. Yeah, I think it's a little too soon. This is one of those, pump the brakes, stay pulled over. I think you've had a little too much to drink. Peacock, Universal. I'm not with you on this one. Especially, I'm not with you bringing back anybody from the original series. They are way too old. And the most popular character, who pretty much just stayed a drunk building a house, unfortunately is probably still a drunk. A house that he finally finished, 15 years later. I just don't think it's a good idea. All right, I'm going to close the show out here since it is the month of October. We're going to close this show out with a list of 5 not so horror / thriller movies. I don't celebrate Halloween. I'm not a horror guy. I'm not a scary movie guy. I've seen my fair share for someone who is not into horror. But because it is October and it is the season of the year where a lot of people like to watch scary things, I have a list of 5 things that are horror, but not so horror. So if you don't like all the blood and guts and gore and ghosts and goblins and demons and all that type of stuff, I've got 5 movies that can have some suspense and anxiety, a little trepidation, that are also enjoyable films that I personally watch and enjoy. So that list are the following. First, Jurassic Park. Yes, Jurassic Park is supposed to scare you a bit. It's not like action adventure. The dinosaurs killing people is supposed to be scary. So Jurassic Park. And if you haven't seen Jurassic Park yet, after all these years, even if you're young, shame on you. Going older than Jurassic Park, but sticking with the animal theme, is Jaws. Jaws celebrated its 50th anniversary this year. It is one of the greatest films, especially when it comes to suspense and storytelling, and really taking that good slow burn. It's a piece of cinematic history, and I recommend watching it. Some of these films, to any younger listeners, it's going to take some patience. I know young people tend to not want to have, but I recommend exercising what patience you do have to watch Jaws. This next recommendation is even older than Jaws, and that is Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Yes, sticking with the animal theme, because look, animals can be scary, y'all. I don't know if you've realized that, but The Birds is a great film that if you really sit and think about it, what if birds decided they just wanted to mess everybody up, how bad it could be, and what they could just do if they decided to get pissed off at all of us and just say, you know what? We through with y'all. Fantastic film. I highly recommend watching it. The last 2 have add a little funny to the horror. One is a comedy parody, and that is The Blackening. It's that is currently on Netflix that I can say you can see. And the last film is, to me, one of the best horror movies in how it was done, the story, and the fact that it makes fun of the teen slasher genre, and that is Wes Craven's Scream. Fantastic film. So those are 5 not so horror movies that I recommend you can watch during this fall scary season, should you be a person who partakes in the fall scary season times. That's going to wrap up this episode of the original Jeek Podcast that we made here to bless your ear balls. I am your host of RockinMrMagic, and I want to thank you for listening. And if you want to thank us for making this episode, we would love for you to do so by rating the show in our favorite number 5 on your podcasting app of choice. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, and of course, our favorite preferred app of choice, Good Pods, where you can not only rate, but you can comment and interact with the show and other listeners. If you can't find us, let us know at jeeknation@gmail.com or message us on Facebook at Jeek Nation. And until next time, peace.
Ready to make an entrance, so backwards cut. Come on, cut for me.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
This is DJ What, and you're listening to the original Jeek Podcast.